Hey guys, so Josie added a really great question about the benefits of raw cheese over not raw cheese, and is sheep's or goat's cheese better than cow's cheese? So I thought I'd address that in a quick video. So firstly, what is raw cheese? Essentially, it's cheese that's been made from unpasteurized milk. So milk that has been heated no more than 40 degrees C and 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The benefit of that is the fact it keeps all the enzymes, nutrients, probiotics intact. When milk is pasteurized or heated above a certain amount, you lose pretty much all of the goodness. So how can you tell if a cheese is raw? Because actually, if you held up a raw camembert versus a pasteurized camembert, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless you looked at the label. Because raw is something that the food producers want to encourage you to buy, it's highly likely that it'll say raw or unpasteurized or farmhouse on the label. The dangers of raw are, although they're significantly reduced in the UK and Europe and US because of our high standards for bovine and animal hygiene these days. But obviously there is always that risk of pathogens in the cheese and also TB. So you could only have TB in the cheese, for instance, if it came from an animal that actually has got TB. So like I say, in the UK, US, Europe, we're pretty safe on that front. But there is always a tiny, tiny risk. Also, most raw cheeses are required to be aged for at least 60 days. And the acidification process of the fermentation process of the cheese also helps to further kill off any dodgy pathogens. Raw cheeses are sold in such abundance these days. Yeah, the farmers markets. Ask your cheesemonger which cheeses are raw. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. If you live in France, there's and other European countries, there's a wide abundance of raw cheeses. I always try and source raw cheeses. I rarely buy pasteurized cheese these days unless it's the only alternative. But the pasteurized cheeses, they don't really offer an awful lot to us. If you're eating raw cheese, or if you're eating cheese for the probiotic value, it needs to be raw. So it's got the enzymes in it. So it's got the probiotics. So it's got the nutrition in it that has not been killed off by that pasteurization process. What are raw cheeses? Well, you can get your camemberts, your bries, your roquefort from, I love roquefort. That's made from sheep's cheese. You've got manchego in Spain, Reggiano from Italy, and even some cheddars in the UK are raw. Gruyere from Switzerland, Pecorino Romano from Italy. I mean, those are all absolutely delicious cheeses and are very often in a raw format. So now let's just quickly go over the difference in raw cheeses from whether it's a cow, a sheep, or a goat, because they all have different nutritional values. And depending on what your goals are, it would really depend on which one you might want to prioritize. Raw cheeses from sheeps and goats, for instance, they have a lower lactose value than cow's milk does. So if you're dairy intolerant, then you'd want to look at either sheep's or goat's cheeses. Sheep's milk cheese is higher in fat and protein and vitamin B12, calcium than goats and cows, but it's more calorically dense as well. So while it's really nutritious, it does have a higher fat profile than cow's or goat's cheese. Goat's cheese is lower in fat and calories and also has a really great nutritional profile. I tend to eat quite a lot of goat's cheese. I don't really eat sheep's cheese, but I'm absolutely fine with cow's cheese as well. So I think it really depends on what you like flavour-wise as well, because some goat's cheeses can taste very goaty. And if you really don't like that flavour, you might want to look at sheep's cheese, or indeed, if you're not lactose intolerant, then look at cow's cheese. So there you have it. Cheese made from sheep's milk is probably the most nutritionally dense cheese that you can get, but it's higher in fat. Goat's cheese is a really nutritionally dense cheese, but it's lower in fat. And then of course you have dairy, which is also a great source of your vitamins A, D, and K, fat soluble vitamins. And if you're not dairy it's sensitive, then it might be that you want to have a look at cow's cheese. So I hope this gives you a good understanding of the difference of raw versus pasteurized. It's very difficult to tell unless you've actually asked the cheesemaker themselves, or they have that label specifying that. You'll find certain brands will tend to have raw cheeses and other brands don't. So, make sure when you're going to the supermarket that you're having actually a look at the labels, and go to your cheesemonger. Get educated in cheese. You can buy raw cheeses online. I always buy mine at the supermarket, or I love going to farmers markets. That, I think, is the best place to buy your raw cheeses, because you don't just get the raw cheeses, you get just such a preponderance of all sorts of incredible foods. And if you're abroad, away from the UK or the States, if you're in Europe, the chances are the vast majority of the cheeses that you're going to be eating over there, the better quality cheeses, they're going to be raw. So I hope this helps. If you've got any further questions, let me know and I'd be glad to answer them for you.